looked at the books and found out he was on drugs. And we reported that. So the FBI came, and they blew up when they blew up during the time of the Vietnam thing. We had a guy who liked to blow things up. I don't know if your brother-in-law or Michael told you any of these, and blew up the bathroom and so forth. And the FBI came, they kicked me and the kids out. But we had lead stories about that. So it was, and we had done all this investigative reporting, and I guess then I took a sabbatical. When I came back from sabbatical, he said, "Well, we're letting somebody else take the newspaper." Okay, see if I care, but I did care. But yeah, that year before I did, I was almost I was threatened by this guy. Famiglio, who owns tons of property there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? Have you ever heard of the Famiglio?
I knew that name.
Anyway, Mark, he had the keys to their senior kid. He was brilliant. We caught him stealing tests, and he flew an airplane over the school to get elected and all this stuff. So, in the senior issue, he was voted most likely to succeed. And my kids at that time, the paper was printed at school. He put even if he has to sweep, they put underneath even if he has to steal. Well, his father got hold of an early copy and called the school and said, either you retrieve those papers or I'm taking Mrs. Bedein to court.
So what happened?
We took the papers back and we had them black out but they didn't black them out very much. And a few years ago I was in Sarasota and I see that Mark Famiglio is a big shot there. He owns half the city of Sarasota. So I just called him up. I said, "Hi, Mark, this is Miriam Bedein. I was your English." He was speechless.
It's the funniest thing I ever heard.
I had Clarice Jardine was on the other end of the phone. And that's where I was, at Clarice's. And I don't know if you know Clarice Jardine. She was, I don't know if anybody ever spoke about her. But anyway, she was a teacher who had retired there. And we were hysterical. So since then, she's met Mark. She said, "You can't help meeting Mark." And he said, "Boy, when Mrs. Bedein called me." But anyway, I had to do it. So anyway, my cousin lived in Sarasota, so I used to go there once a year and visit her. So anyway, that was my years at Marple Newtown. And then I became a sponsor of this, since I couldn't have the newspaper anymore. This friend of mine, Clarice, and I, because sponsored the senior class for the rest of you see pictures, I have pictures all over me, prom clothes, because we went to every prom, and my husband loved it because he could dance with the kids. So we were senior class sponsors just about till I retired. And I didn't know, do you know the story of why there's a unicorn? I never had an evil mind like that. They painted each teacher's room, the walls were, so one of the project was to put a mural. So one of my favorite thing to teach was Alice in Wonderland and Gulliver's Travels. They knew Alice in Wonderland. I said, "What else do you want there?" And I said, "A unicorn. I love unicorns." Well, did you know a unicorn was a phallic symbol? I didn't know a unicorn was a phallic symbol. So everybody was teasing me after this huge unicorn was painted on. I didn't know that. I just love unicorns and stuff. And when I retired, they gave me an Alice in Wonderland tea party. It was so touching.
That's so great. I saw your poster.
Yeah.
And is that when you got into the volunteer work?
Mm-hmm.
So now tell me about that. We have 19 minutes left on this hour tape.
Oh my gosh.
The time flew, didn't it?
Yeah, wow. So then I was all along, I was in JCR. No, I shouldn't say, the whole time I was teaching, I was president of Jewish Community Relations Council. And I was very active in the community. I was on the Civic Association. And I guess I was still working in the early 80s. We joined Beth Hillel in 78 when Helen got married. We had joined Suburban Jewish with Rabbi Botwinick, and it was the love of our life.
I loved him too.
And in fact, David delivered his eulogy. And we just loved him. Then when he died at 42, and they brought Rabbi Horowitz there, which your mother and I stood up for, and then they had the famous meeting where 13 people walked out, your mother and father and Philip and me and two others. 12 others, whatever. That night we went to Harzine, where we were for a few years. I never was comfortable. It was too snooty for me. So in '78, I came to Beth Hillel, and I got active. And my daughter said, "Mom, if you don't get active, you're not going to meet anybody here." Because I said, "I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody." So, yeah, I just sat with a couple of friends that I knew. So that's when I got involved in the Torathon early. So I was still teaching. And then we founded Panay. I told you that. You have that on tape. In '73. And I was teaching. And I shouldn't say Dr. Gerson, because my mother, that name killed her. But anyway, he was my doctor. And he told me, "You get active," because he said, "You can't spend your life taking care of your husband," because he got sick.
I don't know if Dr. Gerson is really responsible.
I don't think so.
I don't
I'm
think
not going to
so
argue
either.
with your mother.
Right, you can't, but
I
I think we should clear Dr. Gerson.
But I mean, we just don't talk.
Right.
I happen to mention his name every once in a while because he was an excellent doctor for Phil. But anyway, yeah, so Phil retired in '89. I retired in '89, not because I wanted to. I really wanted to stay on as teacher. But I got my heart, I had a damaged heart. I only had 10% functioning in my heart, which was discovered by my gynecologist, Dr. Isaacson. She's a riot.
Were you really tired? How did you find that out?
I had tachycardia. Well, I was at school. Did you know Sally Yeager?
Yeah.
She saved my life. I was at school maybe 2 years before, and it was after Rosh Hashanah. I came back to school. I said, "I think I have bad heartburn." She said, "Oh my God, sit down." And she said, "Somebody take." The stupid nurse didn't have a red collar, a cuff. She found some way to take my pressure. I was at 199 heartbeat, and they rushed me to Bryn Mawr Hospital, and she came and she says, "You take care of her right away." They pumped my heart back. It was 199, and by that time, then they sent me to an internist who's still alive and working in Newtown Square. And he says, "Oh, you have a heartbeat 120. That must be your normal heartbeat," which it isn't normal. So anyway, my gynecologist said, "Your heart is very weak. What's the problem?" So I told him what. He sent me right over to Lankenau, and I got into Dr. Burke, thank God, which was your mother's which was Sally Yeager's mistake. She should have stayed with Dr. Burke. Anyway, he said you probably need a heart transplant. So I went for a heart transplant.
You had a heart transplant?
No, I was too old. Thank God, at 62. So he took me back into the hospital, and this doctor had imported this drug illegally from Canada in a brown paper bag, amiodarone, which is now the drug of choice for anybody with a heart condition. Had a sign for it, and that's what pulled me back to normal. Well,
Wow.
It's still not normal. It's almost normal, but I have a pacemaker. So anyway,
You do have a pacemaker. You have other physical ailments too. Let's just talk about them for a moment, and then we'll go back because
I have 2 knee replacements and pacemaker. And then your mother was there the famous night that I fell. Your mother tried to grab me and save me, and I fell backwards and broke my hip. And that's why I have all the problems I have now. It was smashed in a million pieces. And Dr. Wolf said he didn't think I'd ever walk again, but he'll do what he can. So there's a titanium rod going down here and screws. I have a carpenter's kit inside of me, and that's what enables me to walk, no matter. So that's why I walk so weird.
But you're walking.
I'm walking, more or less. I'm walking. So anyway, that's my medical history. I got enough. Anyway.
Well, you left out. Didn't you tell me you were diagnosed with Parkinson's as well?
Oh, yeah. That was later. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's about 9 years ago. I worked with this friend of your mother's and mine in the synagogue. He kind of did it kind of crudely. I was walking into the synagogue, and he says, "I think you should go to a doctor. I think you have Parkinson's." He ruined my whole Shabbat. That's Dr. And he's a neurologist himself. And then I came and asked him for a doctor to go to. He told me Dr. Gollum, who has really been wonderful for me. So I did. Then when I talked to I was still in my therapy for my knees. I've been in physical therapy for 120 years. he said, yeah, we thought you did, but we didn't say anything because there's a Parkinson walk. I don't know what it is, but it's Parkinson. So I had the Parkinson walk. But he says I'm the luckiest person on the continent because I have fewer symptoms than most people. As your mother said, my hand used to shake much more than it does now.
You're doing fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
And I have trouble. I drive slowly because everyone says your reaction time is slower when you're older.
That's my only worry is, how can you be in control if there's an emergency situation? Or is your response quick enough?
Yeah, well, I think everyone says I'm pretty fast on the uptake. So I don't know how my physical response could be. Yeah, that's why I don't drive very much. I only drive in the neighborhood. It's of necessity, and I'm very careful. And people hate me because I'm careful. I get everything happens.
Yeah, but you don't care what people think.
I better not. But it's a little upsetting when you look out the window and you see somebody giving you the finger. It's not very pleasant. But anyway, I was very active. In fact, I was. Dr. Gerson said, "You're the only one whose husband is in Coachville, Pennsylvania, in a veterans hospital, and you're president of Panay." And he said, "But it's the best thing for you." Because I used to have to go out there 3 days a week. I never liked to drive when I was normal. Some people love to drive and some people don't love to drive. I don't. But I went out there. You know where Coatesville is? How far away it is?
Mm-hmm.
It's at least an hour's drive in traffic.
And I love to drive, and I don't like to do that drive.
Yeah, it's a horrible drive. So Phil, but that was Dr. Gerson insisted he go somewhere because he said, "Miriam, otherwise you're going to be a patient too," because we were here and I was having help. And he said, "You can't." He was incontinent, take him out of bed, all that stuff. And so he said, "You can't live like this." But he said, "I don't know. You don't have much income." Oh, that was a mistake. The only reason you should buy a house, and you should tell people this as they get older, if you want to go on Medicaid, they can't take your house away if you own it, but they threatened to take my apartment away they said, "Oh, you can't live in this nice apartment and get Medicaid." So anyway, he said, "You're never going to get him into Coatesville, so you know my personality." He said, "It's hard." I said, "Look, Phil's a disabled veteran. He had his skin rotted off, and he became, and that's when he got all his cancers and everything." So I wrote I called the disabled veteran, Jewish war veterans, veterans of foreign wars, and my congressman Weldon. Nobody loves him. I love him because he took the whole case under control, and between the four of them, they got me into Coatesville got Phil into Coatesville within about 2 months.
That's fabulous.
But Gerson that's never happened. They said they didn't have me. And when the head of the Coatesville introduced me at a Christmas party, she said, "This little lady has written more letters than anybody I've ever had in my whole." He had wonderful care there, wonderful care. And I said there were a lot of black. I went down here at 34. That was terrible. Attitude was real attitude at the Veterans Hospital down. So I said to the head nurse at Coatesville, "What makes them nice?" She said, "We're all Pennsylvania Dutch." She means it's a whole Pennsylvania Dutch atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Everybody's nice. The doctors are good." Phil had a swallowing doctor. The doctors became like his friends, and the chaplain there was just magnificent. He would take me every Friday. I'd come on Fridays with the ladies whose husbands had Alzheimer's, so they drove and I came with them. Thank God I found them, so I only had to drive 2 days. Anyway, what he did, which is remarkable, every Friday he would come and get me, and he had a wonderful. He said he just liked to sit and talk to somebody normal for a change, and he would talk to me. Then he would take me to services with Philip. And as Phil got worse and worse and couldn't talk anymore, this is a wonderful story. He said, I said, "Phil can't talk." He said, "Well, we're taking him to services." So when Phil was not speaking anymore, not talking, he said, "Phil, I want you to say the Kiddush." I said, "Come on, Rabbi, he can't say the Kiddush." It came out of him in some kind of weird way. A voice I never heard before came out from his inner guts. Talk about your spiritualism. It came from God knows where. And he said the whole Kiddush. Wow. I mean, they're just borrowing for your God.
Sure.
And then 2 weeks later or something, he said, and now, he said, "Miriam, he's not going to be with us much longer. Let's have him say the Shema." I said, "Come on." And he did. And that's the last thing he ever said.
Oh, wow.
And the only time he laughed, David came to see him a lot, whenever he was in, from Israel. And he brought him the Jerry Lewis tapes. And that's what we made Philip laugh.
That's such a fun thing. Healing power of laughter.
Right. And he, yeah, because poor Nachum was with me. Anyway, and don't forget, I had all this at the same time. I was having all these children in Israel. And I would go over at least once or twice a year. First with Phil, and then I went out with Phil. I'll show you the picture later. And he had, he was stroke victim. And it's before 2 months later, he went to Coatesville. And I said to Dr. Gerson, what should I do? It's his grandson's mom. Take him. This will be his last hurrah. So I took him, stroke and everything.
I think Dr. Gerson was really good for you.
He was wonderful for me. So he says, you take him. I said, well, you want to come along with me? What am I going to do with him on the plane? It'll work out. Luckily, we met a couple who were going to Israel, who were part of our group, and they sat with us. But when he went to the bathroom, can you imagine going into a bathroom in a plane with somebody? Coming back,
I can't even go myself. It's so claustrophobic.
I don't know how I did it, but I put Depends on him coming home, but I didn't realize it. And so I kept taking him to, and at the bar mitzvah, he stood up for the last time. All of a sudden, we had him in a wheelchair, and he stood up in his wheelchair, and Helen my daughter, she went screeching across the room to grab him, and he goes, L'chaim, he lifts the...
Oh. Wow.
Then he got back in his chair. But I have to tell very quickly a funny story there. They have a wonderful group called Yad Sarah that lends you medical equipment. They gave me a wheelchair, and we were staying on top of Ben Yehuda Street, which goes down like this. There's a hotel, a resident hotel, and we were there for a month. And I said, I got a wheelchair. I can wheel him down Ben Yehuda Street. Yay! And I'm walking down, and it's a heavy wheelchair, not like they have now. I got to the bottom of the street. Now what do I do? How do I go up? And I'm standing there trying to figure out. And a beggar came. And he says, I help you. And he pushed, and I held his cup. I didn't mean to do anything. I just held his cup. So all the way up, people were filling the cup.
What a beautiful story.
They thought Phil and I and the guy were in cahoots or something. We got to the top of Ben Yehuda Street. His cup was filled to overflowing. And he said, thank you. And he kissed my hand. He thought I was doing it purposely. I didn't even know what I was doing. And then a soldier came and took Phil and me around to the other side of the hotel and got us in the back way. It's some story, huh?
That is some story. We're getting to the end of the tape. I have about 5 minutes left. Tell me what makes you so gutsy.
My mother and father, I think. I mean, for one example, Helen said, we never got sick in Boston. I said, because my mother wouldn't allow you to get sick. You didn't get sick. And she, my mother just, and I didn't listen to her about Philip, but when I got there, I said, all right, Miriam, we moved to Boston. You go swimming every day, or you ride your bike, or you don't eat. I mean, that's the kind of thing I was brought up with. And we lived in